like to call this meeting of the Public Works Committee to order. Commissioner Jernigan, would you like to say a prayer for us?
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank thee for another wonderful day. I'd like to pray for our county, state, and nation. Guide it and keep it in the right direction. Give us so many sins. Amen.
Amen.
Should have received a copy of the minutes. Do I hear a motion concerning those?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, first on our agenda, we have the planning report.
You need this.
Doug has graciously allowed me to go first, if you don't mind. My grandson's got a band concert here, just Blackman a little bit. The first one, I got two items, and I brought this as just a something to talk off of. I want to put one copy of each in. It was 2009. McCormick Trucking brought this subdivision to us. To orient you, if you look at the location map, this is Jefferson Pike. To the west here is 840, which comes right up to the edge of this, the ramp does, and then that way is Walter Hill. If you look on there, there's the cross section here. They're required to put in some turn lanes, and they agreed to put those in, and then they visited with the state. The state has a program called the State Industrial Highway Program. They have some monies for special projects to serve commercial and industrial projects to help them get going. And so they talked to the state, and then the state called us. I met out there with a gentleman from the state, and they put together a package. And I didn't make a copy of this for everybody because it take up 2 or 3 trees, but
It's in there, it's loaded on their system.
everybody's got that? Okay.
They got the whole thing.
The, basically what we're asking tonight, the county's not putting any money in this. McCormick is, if there's any extra cost, putting it, we've got the right of way, there's no utilities to be moved. In this document, it says the county agrees to pay for any moving of utilities or any right-of-way acquisition like that. We have a memo from McCormick says any cost incurred, they will surface the cost, but the state only does the work with a agreement between the county and them, and not for individual parties. So what we're bringing to you is this, and trying to get permission for the mayor to sign the documents, send it back to the state, and they will then put in they have the money to put in the turn lanes for this project.
They're gonna spend up to $407,000 and we're not out any expenditures. We're indemnified for things that we don't believe there will be any expense, but we're indemnified by them anyway if there were to be.
The utilities to be moved, there was a water line that we initially had to move on the project anyway. When this initially came before the council, there was one turning lane coming from the 840 side. Initially it was around $40,000. When we were working on this, there was a wreck that almost happened with one of my employees because somebody was in this dip coming from the
East.
From the east, yeah, coming from the Walter Hill side, because the car was in the little dip. TDOT's inspectors were up here working on the guardrail. They saw it. Then they had the big change that went from the one little turning lane to this whole ordeal that we have before us here today. And that's the reason why we moved forward with what Mr. Corbett said. The only things that has to be moved is the water line and the utility poles. And we've already talked with Middle Tennessee Electric, and they're all on board. Just as soon as the final plans are done up by the state, then all those will be moved at our expense. So like I said, remember he said, it's y'all, you're indemnified by us on this deal.
Are they gonna move them on down? How far? I mean, is it any projection as far as on down Jefferson Pike going towards Walter Hill?
That's all later on in their extension of the thing. What we done when we met with them, where when they were gonna initially start from the bridge and go towards Smyrna, everything was gonna be bottlenecking right here on the bridge and everything anyway, which that was a hazard in that curve and in that big deal. So when we took this to them, when all this come up, I was like, look, one, y'all have a problem anyway by bottlenecking this widening on the bridge and everything, and once TDOT looked into it, they agreed. And that's why they agreed to extend this as part of the Jefferson Pike widening. But they're gonna do this early, so that we can go on and get moving into our properties here.
Utilities on y'all's, it's on your
Yeah,
side.
the water line's right there, like,
Mhm.
there's that little white house, water line's right here, and it runs down towards Stan's house.
That was on part of the original project.
Yeah, it's
There
on
was
the
no-
original building.
There's no additional utility work to be done for this particular.
Right.
You get some down there, the Corps of Engineers, they own towards Walter.
Right, and that will be taken, once, my understanding is this spring they're supposed to, it depends on when they get the right of way, start the project from Smyrna down to this point. And then at that point, I don't know what years they plan on doing the next section, but they'll have to deal with
They'll
that.
have to deal with
The
that.
Corps when they get down there.
Any other questions? We need to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second. Any other questions? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No? Motion carries.
Talk to the mayor, there's no additional funds, so I understand that we'll go straight to the commission next week for approval. Okay, I've got another item, and I don't know if you have a copy of the stormwater ordinance on your thing. Our stormwater program, of course, is federal mandated and it's run by the state. And we have our permit is redone every 5 years. And as part of the latest version came out, the state had some mandatory language we had to change in our ordinance. And this went into Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Laverne, everybody's ordinance that has to be on a storm program has to contain this language. So what we're asking is to pass, and the ordinance has to go through you guys through the commission to be passed. Most of it is bookkeeping, administrative type stuff. There's basically 4 maybe major differences that are going to occur in the stormwater program as a result of this language. And this ordinance is also included, is it a appendix in our zoning?
I think it's just a
Or just a
standalone.
standalone thing, okay. Okay, the buffer zone, which is a requirement of 50 feet now, when you do a project, you have a buffer zone, you're supposed to stay out of the creek. That will change to an average of 60 feet. Now, the way that average works is, as you go along the stream, it may be 30 feet in one place, 60 feet or 70 feet in another place, but the average of your project has to be a 60-foot buffer from that stream that you're not supposed to disturb during construction. So that's one of the changes we have.
Is that measured from the bank or the center of the stream?
It's measured from the edge of the bank. We also have put in place, which is new in this, a maintenance agreement for all our BMPs. BMP is a best management practice to handle stormwater. Most of the time now, in the past, we've dealt with swells, detention areas, and retention areas. But on some of our site plans now, we're getting, because they're too tight or we're getting some technologies that require maintenance. In other words, they have to be cleaned out yearly or 2 years, whatever the requirement. And there's a lot of BMPs out there. We're going by the ones that have been approved by Metro, which normally been through a testing program and approved by the state. So we are requiring on our site plans and our subdivision plans now that they submit a maintenance agreement that they agree to maintain. This is the developer will maintain these BMPs, ponds, swells, whatever, for perpetuity. The the plats, like in these, the developer who owns that will continue to do it on a yearly basis. The subdivision developer will do it, maintain the, keep clean out the silt and that kind of stuff until he turns over to an HOA. Or if he doesn't turn it over to him, he still has that responsibility for perpetuity. They sign this agreement up front. Once they have, if they have an HOA, then our homeowner association, they would then sign that to the homeowner association upon turning it over to them. That's, again, this is a requirement from the state. In the past, the next one is, in the past, we have not required an as-built plan of a project upon completion. We're going to require that now. And the as-built will be for the plats, the site plans will be when they finish that site plan. The subdivision will be when they want to turn the project over to the county. In other words, at the point where they say, can you accept our roads? At that point, they'll have to do their as-built. And I'll leave a few pipes and stuff in there that won't be on that as-built, but we'll pick those up with our summer hires.
I don't know what that means, as built. I mean, I'm assuming it means as it's built
Well,
out, but
When we approve a subdivision plat, it'll say the road goes here, and the pipes are put into this stuff. Well, when you get to building this stuff, you may run into rock, you may run into something that changes that a little bit. So what they have to do at the end of the project is go out and verify what's on there. And if it's a change, then they would do a new drawing,
you
basically.
want an updated plat.
We do an updated plat, they
Okay.
give it to us in a data form, we put it into our database.
Got it.
And that way we need the data for our stormwater program, plus it helps us in doing some stormwater stuff later on,
Got it.
so.
Back to the HOA, what happens if they don't maintain? I mean, sometimes we have these HOAs and they just disappear and,
We, well, at that point in time, we're gonna have to probably come back to you, my office, come back to the county and say, look, we can't get the HOA to do this, we have to do it. There's an option that we do the work and then put a lien on every house in the subdivision. That is a tremendous amount of paperwork and stuff, so we'll have to, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, we've talked about that at length, trying to figure out the best way to do that. The stormwater program doesn't give us the option of doing this, and I said you have to do it, so it'll be something we will have to address.
Has there been any previous information recorded, if that's come up? Does the state have any direction they could provide for those? I don't know how frequently that might happen, but I'm sure it happens enough where they're aware of it.
Well, what we'll have to do on that is we're phase 2 community. With phase 1 community, there were 5 of them in the state. They were the largest 5. Chattanooga, Knoxville, Nashville, Memphis, and Knoxville. Anyway, so we would go to them and say, what do you do? I mean, that's the way we've done most of these things instead of trying to invent the wheel. We've talked to Charlotte, who's a real big program, and some of the other communities around us, so we'll go with that. And then once we come up with a plan, what we would do is we'd put it in writing, we would amend this, and bring it back to you and say, this is how we're going to handle it.
That's good. I was just kind of making sure we were at least heading in some direction where when it did come up, that wasn't going to be the first time we sat down and said, okay, now what do we do? At least there's some background there where we've done some digging.
We anticipate that this is going to be a problem.
mm-hmm.
We don't know
I
yet.
can foresee that would be
Right.
an issue with the HOAs.
Right. HOAs have been
Not only that, look at the developers that's went out of business over this past time.
Right.
How are they gonna enforce that, like with a bond? I'm asking that as a developer.
currently, it will be bonded and we will work with the bond.
Because I
Seem
mean,
like
you're-
you got a lot of knowledge here.
Well, because he just made a statement to us on this one that we've gotta keep that out, that's the reason I
What's your,
stayed. Tommy Taylor. I'm
who?
with Tommy Taylor. I'm with McCormick. That's why I wanted to ask about that. There's been,
You're not you're,
I represent McCormick.
oh, okay.
That's this reason I asked that, because if we gotta keep this up, how are you gonna do that? There's been a lot of developers that went out of business. You're sitting with a lot of stuff that's been taken over by banks and stuff like that. You're almost gonna have to bond the storm drainage,
We do.
but that's what I'm saying, so that's gonna be taken over by our bonds, just like the roads and stuff that we have to
That's
put
correct.
up?
That's correct. If,
Okay, that's what I was wanting to know. Because it didn't sound that way like when they were doing it.
Well, there's, in addition to that, another requirement in here is the owners must inspect these BMPs on an annual basis. That'd be the developers. And, or a registered engineer, and a registered engineer has to look at it every 5 years and sign a document to say he's looked at it. You know, some of our local guys do. That's an extra cost. But that's one of the requirements that's gonna be in the maintenance agreement, and you'll sign that before you do your development.
But when that gets turned over to the county, when the roads and whatnot gets turned over to the county, does the storm drainage go over to the county as well?
No, it will stay with either the developer or.
So we will have to keep a
HOA.
continuous bond on that?
Um,
That's the only way to ensure that.
Right.
From a
So-
commercial standpoint though, Dale, I was thinking we had this come up in a situation, I don't know, it seems like in the last few months when you did some education with us on, because you knew this was coming.
Right.
And so like once the developer has the development, at least on commercial, I think it was the gas station, it was gonna now become the responsibility of that gas station
Yeah,
owner
the owner of
of that property
of that
to maintain
BMP.
it. So not the developer, but
Let's say,
But like
let's,
we're gonna be.
Okay, hold on, let's stop for just a second. We're out of order here. So, first of all, does anybody have an issue on the, we normally, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, we
I
normally don't
understand
just,
that, but,
does anybody have an
I
issue?
apologize, I thought he.
well, when he mentioned that about
owned McCormick's, you're contracting the work out with McCormick's, right?
and I speak for McCormick,
You
yes.
speak.
what I suggest is, let me get with him.
That's fine. I just,
And I can go the new
That's-
stormwater ordinance with
okay.
him, and I'll
Okay.
cover that. What I wanted to
Good,
do,
thank
basically
you.
tonight,
Thank you,
is
sir.
present the ordinance to you. This ordinance our anticipation is going to affect February the 1st. If it's passed through the commission this month, next month, we are going to have meetings with the design engineers and the developers that are interested, go over the stormwater requirements and try to answer their questions at that time. And it will be effective February the 1st. So,
and to a lot of the engineers, I mean, this will not be a surprise to them. This has been worked on for a while.
right, we've been
They
talking to
know this
them.
is coming, yeah,
Plus, again, it's a requirement, it's going to be in
right.
the cities, it's just not something
It's not elected, yeah.
we came up with, so.
Okay. Any questions?
Be glad to.
Anybody else?
This is awfully complicated sounding. I personally like some time to research this and look into it a little more myself, but has anybody thought about asking the state to back off of this or repeal it? That just seems like onerous burdens
I'll give you a
on.
copy to look at, and then,
Well, I can't read this in 5 minutes, but
no, I'm not asking you to. You can read it and call me or whatever, but the state is required by EPA to do this, and they've been working on this for years. It's not something they've done over, I mean, they've
What's
been
our
taken to
penalty?
court and that kind of. Well, I'll tell you this, Chattanooga did not do their phase 1 community. They did not do theirs on schedule. They got charged $500,000. That was their fine.
Good.
So- So that was from EPA, one from the state. I mean, I can only give you examples. There are some stringent fees and fines if you don't put the program in place. And so all we're trying to do,
I mean, how do they enforce the fine?
I assume they take it to court. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the procedure. I do know that there have been other cities, larger cities, fined a lot more. And then we had a homeowner in the southern part of the county a couple years ago under what we're working on now. Worked in a stream, didn't get permission. He got fined by the state $22,000. That's just one homeowner. The developer in Smyrna a few years back, he was having some problems. He got fined $50,000. They will come in and fine you. So,
But I mean, so how are they gonna fine the county though, I guess is my question.
You're gonna find if you don't go by the regulations, they put it in effect.
I mean,
So they took Chattanooga to court.
right. I mean, that was in the paper. That's what I'm going by. It was an article they had in the paper. So,
Well, I think we ought to send something to our congressmen and senators and ask them to repeal this. It just seems awfully onerous to the landowners and developers to have to meet all these requirements, and for them to come down and penalize us for not doing these things, just, it doesn't seem right to me. I don't know about the rest of the committee, but I just want
This-
more time to,
This is not the first one. This is a modification of a process that's been in place. Before I ever got, how many years has this been going on?
Well, the phase two, into which we are, has been going on 7 or 8 years. The phase one was started in 92. But this is all part of the Clean Water Act, which was passed back in 72.
It's all a federal mandate, you might say. It's an unfunded federal mandate.
I think that's part of his, Commissioner Stevens' point is
That's
that what you have
12 to 15 years old at least.
Well, and that's nothing that any of us here have done. It's just that's a bigger issue of they don't worry about how it affects downstream, which is the irony. I mean, they're worried about we got to pass this and they'll let you guys figure out how to deal with it. If you don't deal with what we laid on your table, then you don't eat. And that's what Robert, I would assume, is talking about. And really, I mean, I
agree
reckon.
with him.
Well, yeah, I don't think he was indicting you. I just think
Mhm.
it's just a bigger issue of the federal government just passing down that cost to us when we can't afford it, and they're not too concerned about that. And I think that's the overlying problem here is that it's just one more thing on our necks and on our taxpayers' necks that they don't need. And there really isn't anything we can do. We certainly don't want to be sued for $500,000 and lose on top of legal fees. So it's, you know, you eat your porridge or you don't eat it all.
What's our timetable? Our timetable?
Again, we have to, based on what state said, we're supposed to put it in place by March, so we were gonna try to put it in place by February 1st. So so we were, the idea was presented to you, you vote on next week, or if you vote in January, that's still fine. But just then try to get it in place so we can go over it with the people who actually bring projects to us, starting, so we can get it all in. Now, some of the stuff, we've already talked to them, and they've already put it in their designs and they're doing it. And they don't all accept it peacefully, shall we say, but we kind of between the rock and a hard place. We don't have much choice.
well, back a couple of years ago, the Department of Transportation had issued a regulation about street signs and made the counties and the cities replace all these signs.
Mhm.
And we started making some noise about that here, and I alerted some other counties to that, and they passed resolutions and got our congressmen and senators to just sponsor a bill or bring it to their attention, and the department backed off. And we don't have to do that anymore. Of course, we've already spent all the money to do it, but we didn't have to,
Right.
it turned out. And before we implement this and put more regulations and taxes on people, I'd like to at least try to do something.
Okay, I don't have a problem.
But you ain't gonna have too much time.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can have it in, but.
Well, once they sponsored the bill and brought it up, the department backed off.
Is that the state?
I ain't
It was a
talking about
federal-
that, I'm
federal
talking about
department.
this right here now.
A lot of this stuff is because of court cases that they've taken.
This is totally
Been
different
sued and stuff,
situation right
so-
here, the way I see it.
What's the will of the committee?
You know, if you wanna, if you don't have a copy of this, I can put it all in your box. I can come back to you next month and talk to you about it and try to get through next month. I just would like to try to have it in place by February
It'll be the
1st.
same thing, it'll be a better definition.
It won't be any different as far as what I'm saying, but
We did advertise this too, as a public hearing, but we can always take that off.
Did you say we did advertise?
Yes, ma'am,
Yeah,
I'm
this
sorry, I
been
was just,
as a
sorry.
public-
Yes.
becomes a public
I
hearing.
make
Okay,
a
yeah,
motion
I didn't wanna
send it-
steal his
I make a
thunder.
motion
So we
send it
had-
on the full commission, let them.
Yeah. Yeah, we did advertise this as a public, there was, I think, a 15-day requirement,
Right.
yes, sir. And we did advertise it for a public hearing at next week's meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Jernigan.
I make a motion, we send it on that full commission, discuss it, see what the full commission wants to do.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think we need to do a roll call.
I could support that. I want us, you know, of course, the mayor knows this. I mean, after a certain amount of time, you understand where people stand on things, but we need to make sure we let our people know that this can't keep happening. And of course, I recognize that we can't really do anything with the people that are elected, as Mr. Stevens said, needs to know we're getting killed here. And I think they hear that, but until they're sitting on this side of the table and not up there where they don't see it downstream, that's a little bit of a problem. And you know, I could certainly, you know, I want to move this forward, but I wouldn't be opposed on the floor of the commission if we don't, you know, tie that in somehow, that our congressional delegation is alerted to that same
we
way
can
they
do
were with
both
the signs.
tonight.
I was gonna make a motion after.
Yeah,
this.
then also, I'll let you make that motion and I'll just hush.
Okay, call the roll.
Okay, is the extent of your motion to forward to the full commission?
Yeah.
Is it for discussion, or is that your whole motion?
We'll send it on discussion, if they agree with it, vote for it, if you don't agree with it, vote
Pat
against it.
sent it to
So this is for next week.
Forward
Yes,
to
sir.
the
Commissioner.
commission. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes,
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
No.
Commissioner Turner,
No.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
I believe we need to have Dale up there and maybe explain it.
I'll be there.
Motion passes 5-2. Commissioner Stevens?
I'd like to make a motion that we send a resolution to our congressman and our 2 U.S. senators to investigate these requirements and sponsor and support legislation to repeal these.
Second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Madam Chairman, I mean, we might want to be a little bit more specific. This is just a change. Is the resolution going to request that they would repeal the whole stormwater management ordinances? I mean, that has all this history. In other words, just going to strike the whole thing, or are you just going to say, don't do these updates?
I think it's the updates that are.
Yeah, that was,
The rest of it is just about as onerous, but anyway.
my understanding was it was just for, what I was voting on was for the updated.
Okay, so just let that be a part of your motion if you would then. So whoever drafts that resolution would craft the language properly.
Thank you.
I think on a lot of these issues, the counties and cities just take it and don't send anything to our congressmen and make any noise. And if they start to hear from their constituents, hey, the EPA's out of control with these regulations, maybe they'll at least try to do something about it.
I'm just gonna play counterpoint for just a second, and that's because I've been on planning commission for a while, and I guess I'm a little more familiar with the stormwater regulations and how they've affected some different developments that we've looked at. And, you know, and I'm not gonna blanketly speak in defense of the entire act, you know, I wouldn't pretend to do that. But, you know, the reason that a lot of these regulations are born are because of irresponsible development and development that has harmed communities. And so we need to be mindful that they're not just creating these, you know, not always just to be owners. But from a developer standpoint, as I look at some of these, because I own commercial property, and I think if I had to follow these guidelines today, would I have still been able to do my development? Probably not. I wouldn't have the budget to do that. So I'm very sensitive to both sides of it, but the reality is, you know, these regulations are not necessarily always created just to be passing the buck or not paying attention downstream. It's because something prompted the need for it. So I'm afraid we might be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So.
Good point. Okay. Is that all, Mr. Corbett?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to approve a report, or did he have a report?
Well, I
No.
think,
Do you have individual
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I think that's it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug.
Enjoy the concert.
Well, good evening, Commissioners. Just have a couple things for your consideration tonight. First, of course, is our monthly subdivision report, the recorded plat showing the available lots as well as what we kind of have in the pipeline. You'll see that our total available lots is down to about 1,078. Again, we're still kind of seeing that downward trend of the subdivision lots. So if you have any questions, I'll be more happy to discuss them with you. If not, I'll just go ahead and move on to the 2 zoning cases we have for you this month. Really just 2, I wouldn't call them large scale as far as the amount of property involved. The first one is on a piece of property on the corner of Camden Court and Franklin Road. It's currently zoned R15. They're asking for zoning to services. Essentially what he's wanting to do is have some sort of an office property, perhaps even a hair salon, something like that on the property. He will be limited in what he can do there by the soils on the property and the septic tank. If they do redevelopment of the property, they'll have to do it similar to the orthodontic office that was redeveloped across the street. Now, this property, for reasons unknown to staff, when we did the review of the property and went and looked at it, he's already done a huge parking area out the side or kind of along Camden Court. It's concrete. It's actually fairly well done. Unfortunately, we don't know if it really meets the standards as far as the parking spaces or anything are considered, because there was nothing ever submitted to us about it. It's currently just used for a single-family home. Also, he's built it very close to the property lines, and especially to the line to the south. If this is rezoned, he'll have to do a buffer on that, and he may have to tear some of that out.
So
Just
go back to that again, Doug, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understood.
Sure.
He had already built
the parking area is already there.
Okay,
Yes,
it was
sir.
already there,
Right,
okay.
Right, and he just, I don't know why he just did it.
That's what I was trying to figure
right.
out.
And
Why?
it is what it is at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, and I honestly, I couldn't give you an answer as
Okay.
to why he did it. But I think he was kind of maybe jumping the gun just a
Yeah,
little bit,
that's-
hoping he could, that's my personal
Okay.
thought on the matter.
It's kind of what I took from it. I just want to make sure I heard you right.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. Again, this area that's in question here is within the area that's under litigation with the city of Murfreesboro. This is part of a large annexation that they tried to do a few years ago. It's been in litigation for quite some time. That doesn't hinder any of the action that we take. We've looked at other properties in this area, so that doesn't really have any effect. Just wanted you to be aware of that. The city of Murfreesboro, we did get with them on this to see if they had any concerns. There are plans to perhaps provide a future traffic signal at this intersection of Camden Court and on the north side Hillwood Boulevard. So they've asked that a certain amount of right-of-way, what they need, be dedicated for that possibility. So that'll just be done if this is approved, and upon their site plan submittal, they'll have to submit a site plan showing how they're going to meet the parking area requirements, the landscaping, screening, and that. So that's.
And again, that's tied to whichever use they go with, right? Because
Correct.
different uses require different levels of parking.
That's correct. That's correct. I bet they're gonna have to do something with it, just because, like, again, especially on that south side, it's pretty much right on the property line. There's not enough there to do a proper buffer.
Could they do planter boxes or something? I'm just thinking of something to not have to tear
Yeah.
up that concrete, because it was a nice job.
It's not so much an issue of material. I don't think it's really more a matter of space. The ordinance requires a certain distance.
Okay.
This would be a type 2 buffer, and I think what the orthodontic office did across Camden, they actually put up a fence, a privacy fence, which does cut down the amount of space that's needed, and then supplemented it with some plantings as well. He could do something like that to reduce the amount of width they would have, but again, that's almost right on the property line. He really built it out, and
Okay.
unfortunately, if he'd have called us first, we could
Could've
have
told him.
kind of told him not to do that. But that really just affects the south side. There wouldn't be any buffering required on the east, just because that's already zoned for commercial purposes. So that's the first application. The second application is for a piece of property, and it's on the corner of Barfield Road and Veterans Parkway. That was actually a portion of what was called Barfield Crescent, but this is the new Veterans Parkway that's been constructed. That's pretty much it's going to eventually be all the way through a 5-lane section, all the way from 231 South Church Street all the way to, eventually all the way to Beasley, the 840 interchange, what used to be Beasley Road, which is now Veterans Parkway as well. It's a little over 6 acres. The applicant's looking to rezone this also to services. They've presented a conceptual plan. What they've talked about more than anything is possibly using that corner area as possibly a convenience market, gas station type building. That's kind of their intent. They also have the ability of 2 or 3 additional lots on the property, which they're looking for possible uses like offices, general retail, those kind of things. This actually was considered at 2 different planning commissions. It was deferred at the first planning commission because the commission had some concerns about the appearances of the building, and also some of the effects it could have on the surrounding property, such as the amount of lighting and those kind of things. Ultimately, after discussion and discussing it with the applicant, they did bring in some material kind of showing what they're proposing, and the conditions that were approved as part of this, and I'll just go ahead and read them off. I don't want to get them on here. First of all, there was a right-of-way along Barfield Road requirement, not on the Veterans Parkway side, they've already taken care of that, but on the Barfield Road side, it is identified on our long-range transportation plan as eventual improvement. Have some right-of-way on dedication on that side. We're more comfortable with joint access easements used between the lots as opposed to having more cuts along Veterans Parkway or even Barfield Road. To that effect, the city of Murfreesboro also would like to be involved in the site plan review with this particular application, really for the purposes of access to the property, in case that eventually that particular intersection will be signalized. And I've explained to them that obviously, since this is not within their jurisdiction, we can't condition it upon anything, but I did indicate our willingness to let them look at the plans and to work with them as far as access and everything is concerned. That was a very important item. The construction would be some type of masonry unleashed on the front and the sides of on the corner building, and then all lights shall be shielded so that they do not cause illumination of excess of 0.5 foot candles. Upon site plan review, that's something that they would submit with their site plan. Basically, it's called a photometric plan, a lighting plan of the proposed site. So with that, both of these applications were recommended approved by a vote of 8-0, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is this on the old Kimbrough Road? The
Well,
Veterans Parkway
sort
becomes
of. It's, this is part of the new, if you look on your map, oh, sorry, went the wrong way. This is the portion that they constructed right here. This was Barfield Road. This is where Kimber Road came into it, right
Okay.
here. And this is the new
That's what I
segment they
thought.
built.
It just took me a while to figure that out.
Right, no, that's fine.
Okay.
But this, yeah, it's right at that same intersection, yes, ma'am, but it's actually on the new segment that was constructed.
And Doug, we didn't have any opposition to this. We had some folks that asked questions, like, expressed
Correct.
concerns about lighting and things like that, but nobody who was just, I don't remember anybody just being
No,
adamantly opposed.
the one gentleman that spoke at our last meeting lives right across the street on Barfield Road and had concerns about the lighting and the traffic and just how they were going to access the property. And I talked with the property owners there, and the applicant did seem willing at the meeting to do whatever he had to do to lessen the impact on him. I can understand the light bleed over and everything. I also think that orientation of the building would play a large part in that, especially if the canopies are facing Veterans Parkway as opposed to on the Barfield roadside, which is what the applicant indicated they would do anyway, which is kind of what I thought, based on where the property's located, would make more sense to orient it toward the higher classified road, if you will. So.
Make a motion that we approve as presented.
Second.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Noes? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have building codes.
Madam Chairman, Commissioners,
Hey, David.
Good evening.
I have the Building Codes Department report for November. We issued 175 permits. Fees taken in was $125 for plan review. Building permit fees, $35,645. Plumbing permit fees, $6,485. Gas permits was $1,530 for a total of $43,785. On the back of the report, this November we issued 37 single families, last November 17. Total permits 175 this year compared to 120 last year. Our totals indicate 482 single family dwellings have been issued this year. That's 175 more homes than last year. And total permits 2,194. That is up from last year, 412 total permits. The next report is property maintenance inspections. Our department performed 119 inspections for property maintenance, 14 for BZA or conditional uses, 36 inspections on signs for a total of 50 in that category. New cases for November 21, closed cases 38. And our last page is our development tax collections. The Building Codes Department took in $168,750. The Planning Department took in $43,500. Total $212,250 for November. Cumulative total to the far right for this fiscal year would be $744,000. Our development in Murfreesboro was up by 59 apartments being built out towards Bradyville Highway. And that was our largest collection jurisdiction. And that's my report, Madam Chairman.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, landfill.
Good evening, how are y'all?
Good.
How are you?
Doing good. Landfill's still trucking right along. Our volume is down just a little bit this month from last month. We had some projects that were coming in that are completed now, but we're still doing really well. The convenience centers themselves are a little bit slower now, but it's getting ready to pick up. Around Thanksgiving we get busy, and then when it comes Christmas time, it gets real busy. So we're gearing up for Christmas time. We will be closed on the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, which is a Monday and a Tuesday, and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, which is also a Monday and Tuesday. Monday's our normal close day anyway, so just that those Tuesdays will be the only thing that really affects anyone. Landfill will be on the same schedule. The Haley Road recycle will be also on that same schedule. Recycle is actually picking up just a little bit, even with the volume of trash now, but not a whole lot. And that's basically my report. Any questions, please?
Have you got many phone calls about the convenience centers at
The
Kroger being closed?
A few, not a lot, not near as many as I expected.
They're calling me then.
Okay. Most of the ones that once you explain the circumstances, those 4 sites originally were put out 12 to 15 years ago because convenience centers did not have those commodities. Now there's 15 convenience centers in the county. City of Murfreesboro has one. 13 of the 15 have those commodity collections. So it's actually, not really a needed service anymore. We have noticed that our paper collection at Weekly has tripled.
That's what I was gonna ask, is have you figured out if they're finding their way over?
They are we have front loader containers over at Weekly Lane to collect paper. We normally dump them once a week. We've dumped them 3 times last week.
Okay.
So we're gonna put a roll-off container in there to help control that volume a little bit better.
Because I was concerned that maybe people are just gonna get lazy and it's just gonna go to the landfill, so.
No, I'm not gonna say all of them have found it, but a large majority of them. Weekly plastic usually would be a load of plastic every day and a half to 2 days, and we're getting a load every day out of there. And the cardboard's going more often as well, so a lot of them have found it.
Okay, good.
How's the recycling in the schools going?
We're still struggling with that. Right now, we're running about an average of 14%. We'd love to have it. When we started with the program, we thought we could get to 25% pretty easily. It's been a struggle. Mimi has invited the custodians from the city and the county schools to go on a field trip to QRS to see the process of what happens to the commodity. They took 2 days and did that, and a lot of them participated. Still getting some positive feedback from that. But it's a struggle to change the mindset. And it's just.
Mr. Clardy has told me today he's having a meeting with the principals sometime in the next few days and to, again, encourage their participation.
Well, and from my experience when you have 2,000 students plus 180 or so adults in one building, it's tough. I'm constantly looking in my recycle bin and finding stuff like used paper towels and things that aren't supposed to be there, and then finding bottles and cans in the regular trash can and swapping them over. So it's with that many people.
It's tough. Human nature, you've got it in your hand, you want to get it out of your hand, you put it in the easiest place to put it. I meet with Recycle Rutherford monthly, and the battlefield put in a trash container, a plastic container, and a paper container, and it's all 3 of them side by side, and all 3 of them have the same commodities in them. And it's easy enough to separate it at that point. People just choose not to. The struggle we have with it is the similar struggle everybody else has. The big push that most other counties have is If we recycle, we save on disposal cost. We don't have disposal cost. So the big push, one of the reasons we wanted to do the single stream in the schools, if we can pull that off and do it well with no disposal cost, we should be able to set the example to every school system in the state of Tennessee. It can be done. And that's the frustrating part is we believe it can be done. It's just taking longer than we'd hoped. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve the report, Madam Chair.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you want
We're gonna wait till other business at the highway department.
Oh, okay.
You hang on.
to? Okay.
Okay, I believe you have highway department in front of you. We have a couple of things that we need to approve tonight instead of just the regular report, right, Commissioner Jernigan?
Yeah. We got the new road book, each one's been, they approved the new road book, road board did, and, put a copy in each commissioner's box.
Is there a motion concerning the road book?
Make a motion to approve the road book.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And this next item, with the road board, where they was talking about changing, the road board, districts and the school board. And this sheet right here was just, they didn't send this to be voted on, they just sent this forward as information. Information how the road board failed, so that's all that is.
So everybody should have received a letter from the road board concerning their, disapproval of the recommendation from the school board road board zone committee. I said that right. And I believe that's it, right?
That's it, no vote on it.
Okay. Mayor Burgess?
Mr. Noble and I will come back up here, please.
You could have just stayed.
Okay, you actually have loaded on your iPad here under item number 7, what I'm going to talk to you about. We've mentioned it to you before in that we've been given some consideration to locating a building that would house our solid waste department and our vehicle maintenance department. That's the two things we've identified. This has been a long journey. We've been working on this for years. And it's difficult to find a place that's suitable and workable. And we have located a place that's, Miss Becky, you can keep this.
I've got it.
Oh, you already got that? Hard copy? But anyway, that is very, very conducive to doing exactly what we want to do. So what you have there is that first little piece of paper that's typed. It says Public Works Meeting Proposed Building for Solid Waste and Vehicle Maintenance. This is just an overview of what we've located, a piece of property that is for sale. And it's located at 6863 Lascassas Pike. It's a 10,500 square foot steel frame building. It's basically 2 stories high, you might say, and you can look at those pictures and see that it has a very high ceiling structure in that larger vehicles can come in there easily. Has 5 of those service bays on a 9-acre tract. It was built in 2008. And 1 bay that's the same width as these open vehicle maintenance bays is for office. And above that office is an upstairs area for parts and storage. It has some additional outside storage buildings, some of which you can see. There's an old barn area plus another adjacent area for storage, plus to the east of the building, which doesn't reflect on this picture here, they've also developed some other storage that's typically outside storage, but it's covered and it has sides, but you can put various types of equipment in there, and that's in the area between the building and the convenience center. And adjacent to this building is the convenience center that we're using, that we're leasing for $15,000 per year. And that's got more than adequate parking for our purposes. The zoning is exactly what we need for this use. It's being used for this commercial landscaping business that has more than 50 employees and about that many vehicles. So there's a lot of vehicles already using that particular site. They've got an outstanding security system for the whole property and building. And we believe the traffic with the number of vehicles we have, which is far less than this, would be much less than the traffic that they're experiencing there now on that site. Okay, saying all that to say, Mac and I have talked about this extensively. We've visited the property. We've talked to Mr. Nunley in that much of the work that's done at our vehicle maintenance place is for the ambulance department, et cetera. And we've talked to our vehicle maintenance people. We think this is an excellent opportunity to sort of combine all of our resources and put this vehicle maintenance together out there and house our solid waste. And we're spending, just on the solid waste vehicles, about $70,000 a year in outside labor, not counting the parts. The parts, of course, we go out to buy whether someone else furnishes or us, but labor. We currently have 3 people in our vehicle maintenance department. The $70,000 would certainly pay for more than one additional person if we chose to do this. In addition to that, solid waste has a position that's in the budget for a maintenance level person that we've not even put in place. So we would have the budget to expand our maintenance crew and provides, at least initially, and then we could grow into the actual more difficult service repairs, but to do our preventive maintenance and stuff that's being done by an outside firm now.
So do we outsource that because we don't have the space to do it, or we don't have the skill set to do it?
Probably both.
Okay.
I mean, if you know where we are, he's parking his trucks that haul these garbage and commodities behind the armory in that little triangular place back there, which is very, very inadequate. And they have
elbow to elbow.
elbow to elbow, as he said.
Right.
And we've got a little, it's really one of these little storage buildings like you would put on your property.
It's a 12 by 16.
12 by
storage
16.
shed.
That's their office area that's been there, and they have managed to, with less for a long, long time. No restrooms even there. But and if you know, our vehicle maintenance is underneath the armory. I think they've got 2 bays there, I'm not sure.
It's just one entrance, and then there's,
You
you
can
can
two
pull in
vehicles
and
there.
split out and divide into, and get 2, and then if you
With a-
clean these bays out, you can pull the ambulance in and back it in sideways, and you can actually have 4 in there. So
But
I'm
it's-
amazed at how they can get them in and get them out without tearing them
And
up.
it's a low ceiling area there. You can lift it some, but you can't lift them all the way.
Right.
This would move us into the, not the 21st century, maybe the 20th century. We still wouldn't be, but it would give us an opportunity to do some things in a much more expeditious way and give us enough growth and capacity here for years to come. That's where we are. We'd like for this, what we're requesting, and you can discuss and ask us questions, what we'd like to do, assuming this committee would agree, and then we take it to property management, give us the authority to make an offer, subject to a phase 1 environmental study with negative results, and then, of course, final approval by the Board of Commissioners. We would pay for this. We have 2 or 3 options and choices. Largely, we think part of it, let's say half of it out of solid waste fund balance, and the other part of it out of the ambulance funds balance. And they have about 3.5 million projected, and they've got really more than that, but that's how much we're projecting. And then about 4.5 million in the ambulance fund balance, and this will be an expenditure of less than $1 million. So we're not going to ask for that much authority, but it's going to be under that number.
Another thing to keep in mind, in the past 4 years, the solid waste budget has decreased their expenditure $500,000 a year for 4 years running. So we've saved $2 million in 4 years.
There have been no, revenues have exceeded expenses the last 4 years. And prior to that, it was several $100,000 a year that was eating into the fund balance. In fact, this last year, then there was a surplus.
So will this property be shared then between Mac's crew and the ambulance crew? I'm trying to figure who's ultimately responsible for this property?
Well,
who's
the county.
Okay.
We have yet to work out the organizational structure, okay? Max, solid waste would have most of the office space up front.
Okay.
But all of the back would be shared between, and if we consolidate this vehicle maintenance, our vehicle maintenance would likely be servicing their vehicles, okay? But it would be an entity of the county, which it is right now. We just expand. They're working on his some, but really, I guess, basically none. They're not really doing anything for his
Their
equipment.
commissioners are about all they do for us.
But it would just expand their role, and they would still be available, and it would just give us an opportunity to move forward.
How long has that property been available?
We caught them off guard last year when I went out there. We were talking about trying to renegotiate the lease for the convenience center. We were paying rent, and we also went out there to talk to them about purchasing the property. The gentleman I met with were expecting me to be talking about the convenience center site alone. I was talking about the whole piece of property, so that caught them off guard. We got a phone call, 2 months ago, I guess, letting us know that they were willing to entertain an offer, and then we started trying to look at it and get support and see where we could come up with the money. We went and looked at the facility to see if it would work for us. With those 5 bays out there, you could literally park 20 ambulances inside that shop. You couldn't work on them, but you could park them. And you could park 10 garbage trucks inside of there. Not working on them, they'd be too close together. But behind it, they've added a 2,000 square foot structure that's enclosed, no electricity or anything else in it, that they use for park storage, and that's probably what we would do. Upstairs is 2,000 square feet for park storage. We'd probably convert that into restrooms, showers, dressing rooms, employee area. Downstairs, there's 2,000 square feet of office space with a conference room and 5 offices and a little kitchenette type thing, and restrooms. They do have natural gas heaters in the shop that stay in the shop, but they do not use them. They use a oil burning heater. So what we would do is take the fuel tanks from the old armory out there to store engine oil in, and then burn it during the winter to heat the shop. The heater's already there, so we would just do that.
This is all good.
What about the location? I mean, out in the Las Casas area, since it's not central in the county, will that be an issue?
We've talked about that several times, and yeah, we'd rather for it to be more centrally located, quite honestly. We just haven't been able to find anything anywhere, and if we did find it, the cost would probably be prohibitive. The good thing about it, they built one of the best roads anywhere from Murfreesboro out to Las Casas. It's really, even though it's 5 miles out there maybe, or so, it's an easy access point, and it's only 2 to 3 miles from the landfill itself. So even though it's out there, yeah, it could be a more perfect location somewhere, but we just have not been able to identify that and make it happen. And so I think the positives outweigh the location, and it's really a very accessible location.
And we've looked at like the General Electric plant, which that's way too expensive. The Neil Sadler dealership out on that side of town that closed down, that's too expensive. We've looked at a lot of the available properties that may suit our needs, and we just simply could not afford them.
Well, I guess I'll speak, since this is my district, and I'm very familiar with everything out there. Like I said last meeting, we, already own a place where the demolition area is, and I know he's pressed for room. They said in the neighborhood of $1 million. We also got land at the old Last Cassis site there, as far as the ambulance station. I've been asking for that out there for the last 3 years. That's a good proposal, as far as that goes. Convenience center, $15,000 a year. We've been paying that. I don't like that. We've looked for a place. But the way, I see it right now. We already own property out there. We own property where we can put an ambulance station in that vicinity. Where the landfill is now, the demolition area, they've got a shop there that, in my opinion, accommodate all the garbage trucks. And to alleviate the crowdiness at the Armory. I'm just a little apprehensive as far as purchasing this right now. I think we need to look at what we got presently instead of buying this right now. I've already talked to some of the folks in the community out there. They're not no way in favor of this. That's, I know there's not going to be favorability as far as that goes in wherever this might go. But where the demolition area is right now, it's out of sight, out of mind. And I know Mr. Nolan's, he's brought up about the electricity and that we'd have to go get permission to come through BFI or Waste Management or whoever who they are. I just think we need to maybe talk to them about that. If that's the only thing we're lacking out there, and that's where I stand on this right now. I mean, I'd like, before we ever, politely asked this body to go out and look. We talked about touring the demolition area to see the facility that we already own. I think we can add on to it. I hope, this is add on to the building that we presently own and come out a whole lot cheaper than buying this right here, right now. I mean, I know we're talking about putting lock, stock, and barrel, put it all on the ambulance station, and having the convenience center already located. At Last Cassis School, old Last, with the volunteer fire department there, I don't know if y'all familiar with it.
Yeah.
We got property that runs in behind there as far as this convenience center. I know we've looked, we can't find nothing. I know it's gonna probably raise some eyebrows there in that area, but I think the convenience center, we can locate that there, the ambulance station, at the volunteer fire department. We're gonna have the building expense either way on this. We're gonna have to build on the ambulance station. I know the convenience center, that's the only thing that we're gonna be getting out of. But I'd just like to ask this body here to go look and see what we already presently own, and before we make any decision on this.
So you
And
think
that's just my opinion.
we should go to visit this first?
Excuse me?
We should go to visit this
building?
It's not the same size as this building, but it's already a structure there that's got 2 bays. We might have to add on to it a little bit, but we definitely can add on, in my opinion. That's my feelings about it.
That still doesn't address the maintenance for the ambulance side.
The ambulance side. Well, when you move from where you're moving, I think that'll free up some room down there.
All we do is occupy a parking space. The actual maintenance on the ambulance is in the building, the basement of the building. We don't have anything to do that.
So we can add on another space for them there. I mean, like I said, it's out of the way, and it's got a good road goes to it, and it's more centrally located there with the BFI landfill and our demolition area there. It goes right up there to it.
And then the other question would be, do you actually want to spend the money to build a structure on a piece of property that we're looking at the possibility of not owning in the next 15 to 20 years?
We're looking at a possibility, but more than likely, everything that I have thought about, I know we brought up about BFI taking it over, maybe down the road. I just don't see that happening. The only way I would vote for BFI to take this over would take it over with relieving the county of all responsibilities. I just don't see BFI doing that. I think we're gonna have this for long term.
Well, all of that's well said, and we wouldn't think about selling it unless whoever we sold it to took full responsibility for maintaining what we have there for forever. So that's the decision they would have to make when they evaluated this. It would extend the life of our ability to deposit our household waste in this county without having to start spending mega dollars to ship it out somewhere else, wherever that might be. All those things he said, but we've studied this, and you can study it, and you can go out and visit. That little building out there is not adequate by any means compared to what we're talking about here, especially if we're going to move the other vehicle maintenance. So that's a choice you have. If we don't want to do that, I mean, whatever we add to, it's going to be cost. None of that out there is paved, and the water supply is not good. We're going to have city water. It's got to be brought from Jefferson Pike.
How much would it cost to move the utilities?
I don't know. I mean, it could be. We did have some estimates a while back. I don't
We looked at
remember.
it a while back and decided it's not where we want to go with it. The water supply would have to come from across the river from over at the VA hospital side. It's 2,300 feet of water line that you have to put through of course, there's some rock and all that kind of stuff, so it'd be a long run there. The power currently comes in around off of the Middle Point side, off the back side. We spent, was it $8,000 when we moved the 3 utility poles just to do the emergency expansion when we had the tornado. And that was only 3 poles. And I don't know how many poles come from all the way across the other side of their property to ours. So, yeah, it's going to be a relatively large expense.
And whatever we build, we may not build this much square footage, but whatever we build will cost more per square foot than what it's going to cost to buy this building that's already there.
I guess that's what I was thinking, is that in this economy, this is a great time to buy, especially a facility like this. It's a turnkey operation. Everything you need is there. It's already pristine. I know Mac well enough to know it's gonna stay pristine. It's, so in terms of the neighbors out there, I mean, I don't think it would ever look any worse than it looks right now, and I think it looks, great for the type of facility that it is. So it's a unique opportunity. I think we really need to seriously consider it.
What will happen with the armory? This might be a stupid question. Do we own that?
Oh, yes, that's
Okay.
county property.
Sorry, would we think about selling it or using it for something else?
Emergency
or-
management uses
The
all the
upstairs
except for
part.
one side of it we use for offices, and
And
maintenance is downstairs.
We do have some things that we are considering that we might do for the basement if it was freed up from this vehicle maintenance, but it's ours to make a choice on what's the best use of it might be.
You think long-term, this, buying the existing facility as you propose, will save us money?
We're gonna save substantial money just on, because we're gonna bring it inside and we're gonna have a better opportunity to service what we've got. I mean, there's $70,000 on the table just in labor, just that for his,
Well, you mentioned hiring more people.
yeah.
Well, on that.
We may or may not, we probably need to hire at least one more. He's got it in the budget, we haven't filled it for years, because we didn't have any place to put them or use them or let them work, you might say. And,
Well, in owning a mechanical business, I know the best investment you can make is in your equipment, is in maintaining your equipment. Costs you a lot more to not maintain it than it does to maintain it. So just the fact that you would have it indoors, you know, goes a long way in extending the life of those vehicles.
Can any of the other county vehicles, are we gonna manage everybody's vehicles here and maintain it?
we're not initially, we're not gonna manage the sheriff's vehicles, but everything else is already managed by us. And it will give us an opportunity to do at least the preventive maintenance on the fire vehicles that are scattered about the county.
Is this something we gotta rush into here tonight?
Well, they're more anxious than we are, you might say. I've gotta take it to to property management before we can even do anything anyway. And they meet.
I'm saying, I think property management and this committee both, I mean, I didn't know where it was or nothing myself. I'd like to do a little looking like anybody. I mean, I hear all what you're saying.
Yeah, they're not meeting until late in December. You've got the opportunity to go out there then or before or wherever you want to go.
And then the property owner currently is waiting on a decision from us. Since we approached them a year ago, they're giving us the first right of refusal. They already have some other people interested. They're just waiting on what we're gonna do, and then if we do or don't, then they'll move forward with their next plan.
So do they want to hear after this meeting or what?
Well, they'd like to know that we're
Wow.
still
Okay.
positively moving forward. I mean, not that,
Well, nothing's done unless you negotiate a deal you're happy
no,
with.
that's right. But we can't make an offer without authority from property management and the commission. So it'd be January before we can get even authority at the earliest. Before we can make an official, we can start negotiating, but we can't do anything official.
Could we put some kind of buffer or something to maybe satisfy the neighbors, like a tree line or something to?
There's gonna be about a third of the vehicles on the property that's currently there. We're not going to increase the number of vehicles by any stretch.
The closest resident is actually on the opposite side of the convenience center from this structure. And then, there's, what, 3 or 4 across the street, is that right? Dollar General has bought a piece of property across the street that they're doing something with. I'm not sure where they are with that.
That's another thing, burden on traffic coming in and out from there. Whenever Dollar General store opens, and I know there's already a business there and their truck is all coming in and out, but still, I just, like I said, I'd like to wait. I know, you saying it all, they've been waiting for a year. I think this body ought to go and see what we already own, see our building that we got. It's just, I don't think it costs no more near whatever, I've heard $1 million. I don't know, it might cost less, might cost more. I still,
It won't be more, because we won't be offering more than that.
Right.
It'll be less.
But, I know what it was purchased for back, back our former mayor, Miss Allen. I went to her about this convenience center, going out and maybe trying to buy, but that's here nor there, it didn't happen.
They're offering and selling it for the property tax appraisal. That's what they priced it to us for.
But the building we have right now is similar to this. It was built for working on these garbage trucks, and, I mean, it's 2 bays.
It's only 1 bay.
Huh?
Only 1 bay to work on the vehicles inside.
At least it'd be made into 2 bays, as far as that goes. It's got enough room for 2 trucks in there.
Yeah, you can get,
Right.
it's 1 big door, but it's,
Right.
yeah.
Right, and we definitely got plenty of room up there to expand. I don't know, I think we could check on the prices of maybe getting it to width of what this building is. Like I said, this is gonna meet opposition from my folks out there, and, they, you know, they got.
Well, I don't think it'd be quite as much opposition to this as it would be if you put that convenience center up there at the fire department and the recreation area of the old school.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway.
I'd like to take my chances on up there.
Well, and if we don't purchase this, then we will have to look at a place to put
How
the
much is the
convenience
tax appraisal?
center. $1,017,000.
We're not gonna ask for that much authority.
I'm just curious, is the business that we're seeing in the picture, is that the same as the property owner, or is that being leased?
Yes.
Okay. What, are they relocating, or, I was just curious, because I know that's been a pretty prominent business in town,
Yeah.
so. I was
They're
just curious.
relocating to
Have
a-
They've outgrown it?
They're planning on
But that's
staying in
what's
Rutherford
outgrowing.
County, but they're moving closer to Davidson County.
They wanna
Okay.
get closer to access to interstates.
Okay.
So we'd be saving the 70,000 on the outsourcing, and then the $15,000 we're paying for the rent
True.
at a minimum.
Mhm.
And we could probably construct another convenience site where I'm suggesting add property we already own for, I don't know.
This is our best recommendation. You guys just decide what you
What-
wanna
what's
do and
the
make a motion.
What's the fee to make a new convenience center area? To
The
pave
Epps
and-
Mill was the last one built, and it's a nice center if y'all been out there. The county did a lot of the work themselves, and it still cost us a little over $100,000.
Well, since this has to go through us, and then it has to go through property management, and you can even start negotiating until January, Jack, I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't see a problem with us at least moving it forward so they can talk to property management. And then in the meantime, if we wanna go tour, we still can, but because it really, I mean, by the time it gets to full commission, if we've done our research and we've changed our minds, then we can just vote
Have
no
another bite of the
then.
apple then.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second that. I would be open to that. I want
Yeah.
to be sensitive to what Jack is saying
Right.
about some of those options that he might be familiar with, that it might be good for the committee as a whole or as individuals to go out there and look at. I certainly think.
But we all recognize time-sensitive opportunities when they're in
Yeah.
front of us too, so I just think that gives us at least a month to do our research and then make our own minds up whether it's something we want to continue to support or not, so that's my motion.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
We'll have to call the roll, right?
What is the motion?
It's just to advance it to property management, so that they can then present it to property management and then potentially present it to the full commission so they can enter into negotiations. This is really just releasing them to go to property management, because they can't, if we turn them down, there's no point really for you to go into property
Okay, yeah.
management, is there? Yeah.
But I do want to encourage everyone on the committee, if they haven't gone out to where Mr. Black's talking about, to make the effort to go out there to look. I haven't gone out there, but I certainly want to be open to any and all suggestions about what's best for the county and the citizens.
Well, the property man was gonna make a decision on what we're voting on it for anyway.
They'll only authorize an offer up to a certain number of dollars, then we'll still have to go to the Board of Commissioners to,
I realize
To get the
that.
money appropriated?
You know, I still think we need to, go out and look before we send it on and see what we got, out there first. getting our buggy in front of our horses here on this, in my opinion. I think we really need to go out and look at it first.
Let's call the roll.
Okay, your motion is to move the issue forward to Property Management Committee, and the Solid Waste Committee can tour the current facilities in the meantime to see what the county has.
Would it be the solid waste committee or public works?
Public Works, sorry. I have to do this on the fly.
No, it's quite all right.
Take it up better
You
later.
do more than an admirable job.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Black,
No.
Commissioner Jernigan,
No.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
5 to 2.
I'd like to make a motion to go look at it before it ever goes to property management. Look at the property that we already own out there.
When is that meeting? When is that
Excuse me?
when's the next property management meeting?
I
you
said
said?
in December.
December.
At the end of the month,
It's
something.
the end of the month.
You mean all of us together, or?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna, thinking about spending $1 million, I would.
I'm just trying to understand what you're asking.
Well, because for open meetings, we'd have to advertise it, that we're all gonna be together.
Is it gonna be a special call meeting?
I'm just thinking,
Or you
can
guys
we
gonna
all?
go out there individually on your own initiative?
Right, I think everybody needs to go together. We're talking
Property
about,
Management meets January 24th,
December 27th.
December 27th.
Are you asking this committee, or are you asking this committee and property management both go together?
since it hadn't got the property management.
Yeah, just asking us.
I don't know that we need to be paid to go out there and look at it. I
Oh,
think we can all go out there and look at.
No pay,
We
no.
can go out there and look at it
Just
on.
agree to go.
If we meet, so you're making a motion, what was your motion?
For this body to get together and maybe go out and.
If we have a meeting, we have to get paid for it, and I
Yeah,
don't,
you can't deliberate, I mean,
You just going out and looking at it.
that's all you can do is look, I mean, and you guys can schedule a meeting with Mac anytime you wanna go, we'll drive you out wherever you wanna go.
That's the best
but
thing to do.
if we meet, I don't want us to get paid for.
You won't be, you
well,
ain't gonna get paid.
If it's a called meeting of the committee where we're all together, I think the county, rules would require
I
us.
mean, if two or more of you get together, it's a meeting.
Yeah.
The chairman has suggested back in the past, I think a month ago, or to go out and look
Yeah.
at what we already got.
And we've already talked about it and decided to wait till the spring when it was warmer and the county was, and the landfill was open on a Saturday.
Right.
So we could all go at the same
And
time.
I think we need to rush it up. In my opinion, I think we
Okay.
need to rush it up myself.
How does
See what-
Carol do her tour, when she, like the Laverne tour she did for us, where we all rode a bus and toured?
Mhm.
How were we able to do that without violating any open meetings? Do you know?
Nope.
I don't either.
I mean, it was just right around and saying, here, you're just looking, nobody was discussing what you're gonna
That's
use
just
or
my
what the
concern.
benefits of the.
Yeah. I just wanna make sure that we're not, in our effort to do the right thing, I don't wanna do the wrong thing.
Right.
I have no second.
Is there a second on the motion?
Well, I think we gotta figure out, are we doing it as a group or as individuals, right? What was your motion, Jack? Were you saying you just want us out there, it's not?
Well, I'd like for all of us to go, but if we
I think
gotta, if we go, everybody, I know Commissioner Stevens is worried about the pay part.
Well, what if
I
we,
don't wanna be compensated.
It would be
for
hard to say you're not deliberating, because you'll be discussing the pros and cons when you're there together.
I think
That is-
everybody should just go on their own and.
That is deliberation, I mean, in a technical
Yeah.
sense, so it would have to be a publicly noticed meeting, called special meeting.
Which is different than just touring our own facilities that we currently own, just
Yeah.
to see where they are and what they look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many of you have ever been to our landfill?
Okay.
And property management, I don't know how many of those either.
well, I
How
was
many's
wondering if
here?
we could just, if,
How many's here has been to the How many?
I don't think I've ever been to the demolition
been
site he's
there?
talking about, no.
The Rutherford County landfill.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and you also need to go down to the armory, if you're gonna go, you need to go back behind the armory and walk that and.
Well, see, that's
walk-
why, and Robert's right, I mean, I don't, or Commissioner Stevens, sorry, I try to be formal. I want to be able to see all that. The easiest thing for me in that instance is to have a set time with the committee to say, we're gonna do it all at once, just given the fact selfishly that I work in Nashville, and getting closer to the Christmas holiday, it's a little bit more difficult with scheduling to be able to say, I'm gonna go here today, and I know I'm gonna be able to hit this tomorrow, or what have you, and so I'm torn, to be honest. You know, I'd certainly like to, on one end, I don't want to cost the taxpayers money for stuff that they don't need to be paying for. The flip side is, if we do go, I would like to have deliberation, because I don't think it's fair to Jack or anybody else that might have to have me go out there and see it, and he can't present his point of view. Not that he didn't tonight, but
Well, that or if Mac's taking us, he's gonna take us 7 different times.
yeah, that's the other thing, and have to explain the same story or same limitations or pros and cons 7 different times.
What's the possibility of doing a joint with public
Property
property
management.
management, thank you.
Their meeting is scheduled, if you guys
Well,
want to have
it'll be
that.
dark.
Yeah,
It'd have to
When
be
the
on,
meeting
literally
is.
on a weekend or during the day, right? And during the day, I couldn't go. Not, again, I'm not,
so it's 5:30, December the 27th is the schedule right now.
Is the schedule, what's that, Ernest?
December the 27th is their scheduled meeting date.
For property management.
Property management, 5:30.
is it easier for the committee to meet as a committee, or is it easier for, it's easier for me to go as a committee. But I
I
don't want to
agree with
speak, I
that.
don't want to speak for anyone else.
I agree.
And if that's the case, then I'd like to make a motion that we go as a committee before the property management meeting on December 27th. And then we'll work with the mayor's office and with MAC, if we can't come up with a common date tonight, to try to establish that as quickly as we can, just for scheduling purposes.
Okay, technically, Commissioner Black has a motion, but we never got a second, so let's step back just a second. Was there a second to Commissioner Black's motion?
I'll second Commissioner Black's motion that we visit these other facilities.
Well, his motion is to ask the committee to look at the current facilities before this matter goes to the property management committee.
And other properties, and the other property that we own out there.
We'll look at the facilities, and so you want me to say including the armory?
Oh.
Armory and the Las
I
Casas
don't know
Fire
if they're
Department.
aware of the property we own in Las Casas.
No,
It's right
I-
down from this, where.
He's talking about at school.
Yeah, at the school. I'm not talking about this facility.
No, for me, I want to see whatever we would need to see to be able to make the most educated decision we can make. So if that's one facility, fine. If that's 4, then that's what I want to see.
Well, if you want to do that, you'd need to see the current maintenance under the armory, our driver's shed and porta potty and the store, and where they park back there.
We need
The
to see it
Rutherford
all.
County,
Yeah.
County landfill, the old Las Casas school site that Jack's
No,
speaking of.
we need. I can't we need to see it all, Mr. Joe Frank's right. We need to see it
Way
all.
there, nobody can't say they ain't seen it all. That's what it made.
If you want to do that in daylight hours, we probably need to do it on a Saturday or a Sunday. I'd prefer.
I would actually prefer that strongly as well. Now, Mayor, would we work through you to that to get scheduled, or through Chairman Phillips to?
Tell us what days you sort of want us to consider.
Did you
I'm
say
not gonna
Sunday?
do it on those
No,
Sunday.
I don't want, I don't want to do it. If y'all tell me to, I will. I'd rather not.
Well, no, we can do it on a Saturday.
Okay, I thought that you said you prefer Sunday. Okay, thank you.
Well, after this, I'm gonna make a motion that we get a resolution from the commission.
Okay,
Is
how's
is
that?
our fee for the meeting set by the state, or is that set by
You've set that meeting.
Well, I'd like to, after this motion is voted on, if it passes, to send something to the commission this time to exempt this meeting from being paid.
Okay, hold that. Let's discuss that here in a second. Let's go ahead and vote. Let's vote on this. Any other questions on this one first? This motion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. So
And
Commissioner Stevens.
I'd like to make a motion that, that we explore the possibility and send a resolution to the commission at its December 13th meeting to exempt the special called Public Works Committee meeting from the pay schedule, if that's lawful.
I'll second that. Now, can I ask this question before we vote? If, just say, Commissioner Stevens, he calls me and says, hey, I might not be free that day, can I come out there and ride out there and look at these, where, within your district? Is that okay? I mean, it's not over 3, as long as it's not over.
I don't think so. You could give your concerns to Mr. Nolan or somebody else who could relay those on to us. But I don't think that we
Any
could
two
meet.
people meeting and discussing pros
Yeah,
and
I
cons
don't
and
think
I thought it was
deliberations.
over 3,
No,
I mean, over 2.
I think it's.
2 or more.
It's a gray area, and especially as to what deliberations are, but I'm not willing to do that myself.
Do you wanna do it on a Saturday?
All right, let's vote on this real quick, and then we'll
Talking
talk
about
about
this
dates.
Saturday or?
All those in favor of, could you read it for us?
Send a resolution to the commission to exempt the special called Public Works meeting from the pay schedule if lawful.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now dates. Mr. Nolan, you started that.
Well, we're more flexible than you guys are, Bob. So
Well,
you
you've only got 3 Saturdays between now
you
and
set the time.
property management.
Saturdays are tough and Sunday, in December.
Yeah, well, again, I'm only speaking for me, don't use that as the barometer. The 15th would not work for me in the morning.
Yeah, I've got a family function.
You've only got the 8th, the 15th, or the 22nd.
And the 8th isn't enough time to.
If we could, Matt could, well, again, I'd like to suggest we do it on the 15th in the afternoon. Because the 8th, this is too early, too quick for people to plan. The 22nd, half of us will be gone for Christmas potentially, or
When you say afternoon, what time are you thinking?
I'm thinking 2 o'clock. That give us enough time?
The 8th?
15th.
15th.
Do we have enough time to
I've
put it
gotta
out there
work
on,
that day.
for notice on the 8th
Um,
at this point? I don't know if there's enough time to
Oh, not
advertise.
on the notice for the 8th is not enough time.
No, they have to be 15th at the earliest.
Are you off on the 22nd, Jack?
Yeah, I'll be off the 22nd.
Who will be out of town on the 22nd?
I'll be gone.
That's one, I wish, we could put this off there to the first of the year. I know it's right now into holiday time.
Well, the motion was to meet before property management.
I can try, if you wanna do it on the 15th, I've got something already had scheduled from 1 to 3, but I can try to get somebody to fill in.
I gotta work that day.
What time do you get off?
I'll be off, it's the 22nd.
No, what
It's
time
gonna be
on the
on
15th?
Excuse me?
You work 7 to 7.
Yeah, I work 24.
What about Sunday afternoon?
You said Sundays are bad for you,
If
Matt?
it- If it's not gonna be,
After church, I don't mind doing it after church,
Yeah.
I'd just rather not do it at church time.
I won't do it during church
Yeah.
either, so you won't have to worry about that.
if it's not gonna be manageable, I'll take off and go to, I'll be present at the property management and, can fill.
Well, the other option is the 16th at 2.
Yeah, Sunday would actually be better for me.
Yeah, I
The
don't want you having to
16th.
take off, Jack.
No, I
If
don't,
we
and
can
I
work
don't,
around it.
on Sunday, that's a,
I ain't gonna go.
I understand that.
Okay.
I don't know how we can back up. I can be at the next property management if they'll suspend the rules and let me explain
Okay.
how I feel. I'll withdraw my motion on that, and I'll just go to property management.
I think we're really getting bogged down in things that really aren't being productive here. And instead of just having the special call meeting at all, I think it would be easier for those who are interested to just go tour the facilities. I don't know that Mr. Nolan has to be the one that gives all 7 of us an individual tour. I think there's other employees out there that you could give them your talking points, and they could let us tour those on our own time, and we can go out there whenever we see fit, and then we don't have to put the notice in the newspaper and worry about people getting paid for another meeting. And so my recommendation is for somebody, I voted no, so I can't do this, but for somebody who is on the prevailing side of the vote to schedule a meeting, to move to rescind that vote and just let everybody go out there on their own time and let property management deal with this. This is really their job. It's not the Public Works Committee's job to even do this. I think this is their diligence to do the searching and to recommend what we should and shouldn't do with respect to purchasing and maintaining our property. So I think somebody who was on the, or one of you who voted yes to set the scheduled special call meeting, it would be good if you would move to rescind that and just let us all go out there on our
I
individual
move
time.
to rescind.
I'll second. Yeah, that,
I think Jack was about to do that anyway. That was your point when
That's
you said
gonna
you were
be the
gonna
best,
start.
let you,
Yeah.
each individual go out there
That's
with Mac, set up your own schedule.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to go through all this other.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then I'll move that we rescind the resolution for the paycheck issue for the special call meeting.
Second.
second.
I'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any other business we need to discuss? Okay, hearing none, we stand adjourned.